The Story of the Humans, Saga Edition. You want to know about the humans? The elder's voice rumbled like distant thunder. He leaned forward, firelight flickering across the grooves in his face, while the younger ones drew their blankets closer and huddled nearer. Shadows from the flames danced like soldiers on the wall. You think you are ready to hear of them? You are not. None of us were. But I will tell you, for it is better that you learn now in the safety of the circle than face them with only rumor in your ears. He let the silence hold for a long moment. Then he began. Arrival of the unremarkable. When their ships first appeared, no one trembled. Why should we? Their craft looked clumsy, patched together from spare metal. Their weapons looked old, their uniforms plain. They had no regal banners, no shining fleets. They introduced themselves softly, with gestures of peace. And they smiled, always smiling, with teeth. At first, many of us recoiled. Teeth are for predators. But they smiled with warmth, with laughter. We mistook it for weakness. They seemed fragile, their bodies thin, skin easily cut, bones breakable. No claws, no scales, no armor, just soft flesh stretched over vulnerable frames. To look at them, one thought a stiff wind would scatter them like dust. But what is fragile in appearance can conceal a strength that beggars reason. The world called Earth. They named their home Earth. I studied its records, and I tell you, the world should have killed them long ago. The air is thick with toxins. The oceans burn with salt. The storms lash the land with winds that would strip the hide from a drake. Radiation pours from their star. Predators with cunning minds and cruel fangs hunt across their continents. And yet, humans thrive there. Not merely survive, thrive. They laugh beneath lightning that splits the skies. They dive into oceans that choke other life. They climb mountains where air itself turns against them. And when disaster strikes, storms, quakes, floods, they rebuild. Again and again, they rebuild. One of my kind asked a human once how they endured such a cursed world. Do you know what the human did? He shrugged and said, "We got used to it," as if that explained everything. As if enduring the impossible were ordinary. That is the second lesson. To a human, hardship is not the end, it is the beginning. The strange flesh. Let us speak of their bodies. To us, they seem weak. They bleed so easily, and yet they refuse to die. I saw a human soldier take a spear through his chest. By rights, he should have fallen. But he fought on, dragging the weapon deeper into his own body so he could strike closer. He killed 3 enemies before collapsing. I saw another trapped beneath wreckage, both legs crushed beyond saving. He laughed, as his comrades pulled him free. He told them to finish their mission before worrying about him. Later I learned this is common among them. They endure pain not just silently, but defiantly, as if to prove pain wrong. They heal fast, bones knit, scars harden. Where other species break, humans grow stronger, and they embrace it. They boast of injuries, display scars like medals. To them, pain is not a curse but a teacher. And strangest of all, they seek it. They climb mountains where lungs collapse. They run until their muscles tear. They dive into water so cold it freezes their blood. They do this willingly, calling it sport, calling it challenge. To them, suffering is not to be avoided, it is to be mastered. Voices and bonds. Humans are loud, not just in volume, though their voices boom like thunder. They are loud in spirit. They bring music wherever they go, strange patterns of rhythm and sound that burrow into the mind. I have seen whole platoons march longer than thought possible, simply because humans sang to them. They carry laughter into the darkest halls. They joke in the face of despair. They turn grief into stories, and those stories into strength. They ally with all. Empires, exiles, smugglers, wanderers. To a human, no one is too small. They will share drink with a pirate, break bread with a priest, trade with a beggar. Some called it foolishness. But slowly, silently, the humans wove themselves into the fabric of us all. They did not build an empire of conquest. They built an empire of trust, a family, and once you are part of that family, the elders' eyes narrowed in the firelight. Their kindness becomes the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. The Valkyrie miscalculation. The Valkyrie raiders did not understand this. They believed fear was the truest law. They struck the Kalani outposts, thinking them easy prey. The Kalani had few defenses, gentle hearts. But they had a treaty with humans, a promise, just words on paper. The Valkyrie laughed. What could fragile newcomers offer against them? They learned. The first human war. When the Kalani cried out, humans answered. Their fleets moved with impossible speed. Days where we needed weeks. They burned their engines hot, rotated crews so no ship slept. They pushed past safe limits, and still they came, driven by sheer will. When the Valkyrie attacked again, humans were waiting. I was there. I saw it. One human soldier equals 100 of ours. They fall and rise again. They bleed and fight harder. Their eyes blaze with fury, a fire no other species knows. They strap into great machines, armored walkers of steel they call mechs. At first, we mocked them, crude, clumsy things. Then we saw them fight. Humans turned machines into predators. They moved as though the metal were their own bodies, their own rage given form. I saw one fight 3 days without pause, bleeding inside the cockpit, half dead and still fighting. When his mech collapsed, he crawled free, took up a rifle, and fought on. They laugh in battle. Do you understand? They laugh, they shout to each other, tell jokes, sing even as death rains down. To us, battle is solemn. To them, it is defiance. Their fury is song. The elder's voice thundered. And so the Valkyrie burned. The aftermath. When the Valkyrie fleets lay in ruin, we waited for the humans to claim spoils, to demand tribute, seize land. That is the way of war. But humans did not. They stayed. They gave food, medicine, supplies. They built shelters, repaired ships, carried Kalani children from rubble. They mourned the dead as if they were their own kin. That was when I understood. Humans do not fight for conquest. They fight for what they love. They will smile, sing, drink, trade. They will treat you as family. But harm their family. The elder's voice dropped to a whisper so low the fire almost drowned it out. And you will learn the meaning of terror. For nothing in the stars is more frightening than a human smiling in battle. The elder leaned forward, letting the fire paint his face in deep shadows. His voice rolled like distant thunder, heavy with memory, the ripples after war. After the Valkyrie fell, after their fleets burned and their soldiers scattered, nothing in the galaxy was the same. The Kalani rebuilt, yes, with human help, but more than walls and starships rose from that ruin. Something greater spread through the stars, stories. Kalani children sang songs of human courage. Their merchants carried tales of how humans had bled for them, died for them, and then helped them rebuild without asking for tribute. They called the humans not saviors, but kin. That word carried far, carried fast. And in a galaxy of fractured empires and brittle treaties, that word was revolutionary. The empire of trust. Until then, every empire looked after its own. The core worlds gave charity, but only to display their power. The raiders took what they wanted and offered nothing in return. The smaller clans bound themselves to larger ones in desperation, never in hope. But the humans, they moved differently. They gave food without demanding oaths. They traded fairly, even when they could have cheated. They asked questions, "What do you need?" instead of, "What will you give us?" And they listened to the answers. They allied with the Kalani, yes, but also with the Toruan fleets wandering the void, with the Merriks, who lived half in shadow, with the Char, whose history was steeped in blood. Even with smugglers and pirates, humans found common ground. "You have a family?" they asked. "So do we." "You want to eat tonight?" they said. "So do we." You want your children safe? They said. So do we. And suddenly, strangers became kin. Kindness as a weapon. This unsettled the great empires. For how do you fight an enemy who does not conquer, but embraces? How do you compete with soldiers who will share their rations with you, who will sing with you, who will bleed beside you even if you are not of their world? Some whispered that humans were manipulators, that their smiles were masks, their kindness a strategy. But if it was, then it was a strategy so perfect it needed no armies. Every year, more and more voices spoke the same. The humans are our friends. Harm us, and you will face them. Their web grew, not an empire of iron, but an empire of trust, and every strand hummed with loyalty. The Council of Factions. It was only a matter of time before they were invited to the Grand Council. I was their child. I stood in that vast chamber where 1,000 voices clashed like storms. The debate raged hotter than any before it. The core delegates sneered. They are too young, too crude, too reckless. Their world is chaos. Their bodies are fragile. What place have they here? Others argued otherwise. They fought beside us. They gave us shelter. They treat us as equals. And then there were those who spoke with fear. If one human is worth 100 soldiers, what happens when they turn against us? The chamber was a tempest of words, until the humans walked in. The weight of a smile. They did not come with banners. They carried no gilded armor, no crowns, no retinues of slaves. They entered in simple uniforms, faces bare, hands empty. And they smiled. The room fell silent. Every delegate who had fought beside them remembered Valkyrie ships burning, remembered soldiers laughing in the fire, remembered mechs striding through fleets like titans, remembered that after the battle, humans rebuilt instead of conquering. That memory hung heavier than any speech. It silenced the chamber more than 1,000 threats. Whispers in the shadows. But all breeds fear. In the corners of the chamber, whispers grew. What if their kindness is conquest by another name? What if they build their web only to pull it tight? What if one day their smile fades? Fear follows humans like a shadow. For every empire that called them ally, another watched with unease. And yet, none dared confront them. Not then, not yet. For who would strike first against those who had shown only friendship and burned demons from the stars? The strangeness of humans in council. And still their ways confounded us. They argued with each other in front of allies, shouting, laughing, even insulting, and yet it never weakened them. It made them stronger, for somehow they trusted each other more after every argument. They drank fermented poisons in the middle of negotiations and still signed treaties that endured. They sang in the council chambers, sang, and their songs stuck in the ears of species who had never before understood music. They spoke of strange things, fairness, forgiveness, opportunity. They pardoned criminals others would have executed. They gave second chances to raiders, and somehow, those raiders became loyal to them, laying down their lives in later battles. We shook our heads, we thought them mad, but their madness worked. The second lesson of fear. Soon, the galaxy faced a new question. Not what can humans offer, but what will humans do next? Some dreamed they would bring unity. Others dreaded that they would bring conquest. But all agreed on one thing. Humans had changed the balance forever. And in the dark corners of the stars, plans began to form. For every empire that called them kin, another began to wonder, what happens when the humans fight not for others, but for themselves? The elder leaned closer to the fire, voice dropping to a rasp. That was the second lesson, child. The first was that humans fight like demons. The second is that they love like kin. And those who threaten their kin. He bared his teeth, not in warmth, but in warning, will learn fear deeper than the void.